Welcome back YouTube, Nick here working on a smaller piece of equipment today. What I'll be working on is a Cub Cadet LTX1045 riding mower, and I'm going to show you how to replace the belt and corresponding tension spring. If you're wondering where to get these parts, I purchased them off Amazon, link in the description below, but let's dive right in. The first thing you are going to want to do is elevate the front end in some way, shape, or form to give you more access to the deck. What I did is I used my car ramps for doing an oil change and drove it up. I've seen other people online take a floor jack and jack up the front. Either way, you're going to want to get that deck off the ground so we can lower it and disconnect it and have more access to change the belt. Once you have that deck up in the air, you are going to have to pull 3 separate pins to lower it to the ground. There are 2 in the rear and 1 in the front. We will start with the front pin, which is a magnetic cotter pin. You will disconnect, pull out, and lower that portion of the deck down. Once we get the front removed, we'll move to the rear, and these are spring-loaded pins that you will simply pull back and then lower the deck down, doing one side then the other. Now that the deck is on the ground, you'll have tons of room to pull it slightly to the left and right and get access. I would also advise cleaning it up and giving everything a good inspection. We are going to start first by replacing the tension spring that moves the engagement pulley back out of the way when the deck is in the disengaged position. You can swap this spring from either position, but if the deck is disengaged, there's less tension on it, so I would advise just quickly disconnecting and reconnecting it well in this position. And if you are wondering why I'm even swapping it out, I read online that people have issues with these and engaging and disengaging over time, so I figured while I'm working on it, I might as well spend the $10 and replace it. Alright, let's dive into the deck belt replacement. The first thing you need to do is remove the pulley guard off the front idler pulley and disconnect the belt so you can move the deck around freely. To remove the pulley guard, you just need to disconnect 2 bolts and it will drop down. I do want to call out though that in this shot the pulley guard is actually mounted backwards. You can put it on the wrong way. In this shot it is facing the correct direction, so make sure when you put it on that you put it at the rear of the pulley so that it guides the belt and keeps it on when being engaged and disengaged. Now we are going to disconnect the belt from the deck. To do this, you start by removing both covers on the blade pulleys. Each one is held in by 3 bolts, and because you drop the deck to the ground, I recommend sliding it out from under the machine to get easier access to remove these. Next, we are going to move to the 2 central idler pulleys. Each of these pulleys has a belt guide mounted to it. If it is bent out and you can fit the belt through, that is wrong. So you are going to want to change the belt and then bend that back to place. If it is in the correct position and you cannot fit the belt in between the pulley and the guard, you're going to want to loosen these, not disconnect them, and then you can jiggle and wiggle the belt through and into position. What you'll do is put a wrench below, grab a ratchet, and loosen the top. Do this on both and disconnect the belt. Alright, so the old belt is off and it's time to install the new belt. Your belt is directional, so you are going to want to put the grooved portion around both of the pulleys that drive the blades and the smooth portion of the belt up against both the idler pulleys in the middle. When looking at it from the top down or from a diagram perspective, think of it as the groove portion facing inwards. Now when feeding the deck belt on, it should go nice and easy. With your idler pulleys loose, you can jiggle and wiggle the belt in between those. So get everything lined up on your deck before worrying about the front. Once you get your belt lined up with these 4 pulleys, you're going to want to tighten down the idler pulleys in the middle. The key here though is the deck belt guides that are attached to these have a point in which they're supposed to clip into place. As you can see here in the video, you can see and hear it drop into place when it is in the correct position. My advice here is really just wiggle it back and forth and feel where it sits home. It naturally falls into place. And once it is there, tying it down, make sure you're not moving it out of position until it's fully snug. If these are in the wrong position, when your deck is engaged, your pulleys can potentially rub up against each other. And you can also have issues of the belt coming off. So make sure you get these in the correct position. With your idler pulleys, you're not going to want to tighten the shit out of these, but you are going to want them snug. So give them a nice firm tighten, but don't make them to where they won't move. And test the movement afterwards. Spin it by hand, make sure it functions. If it's too tight, you'll notice it binding, and that means you need to loosen it some. Now that the belt is on and both idler pulleys are back mounted and their guards are in the correct place, we're going to put the covers back over the blade pulleys and then put the deck back on the machine. A quick 6 bolts and both covers are on, and it's time to reinstall the deck. I recommend centering it left-right before you try lifting, and then attaching both the rears first before we worry about the front. Pro tip if you're doing this job alone is to take your feet and put them under the left and right side of the deck and use your toes to lift it in place while your hand actuates the spring. I was having a ton of trouble installing this, and then I figured that one out, so hopefully it helps. Now that we have the rear of the deck mounted, we are going to remount the front. Same pro tip for this, use your feet to lift it up and then put that little guide bar through and your magnetic pin. Alright, we are on to the last step of the process before you are cutting grass again. All we need to do is attach the belt to the front pulley and put on the guide. When putting the belt on this pulley, the groove side should be facing in. If it is not, you installed it backwards and go back a few steps. If you do have the belt facing the correct direction, it should be as simple as guiding it on with your hands. There shouldn't be a lot of tension with the belt in the disengaged position. If there is quite a bit of tension, what you can do is feed the belt onto part of the pulley and spin it around to guide it on the rest. Now, last step of the process is to install that front guide bar. Remember, as I said earlier, you can install this backwards. Do not put it on this direction. You want it between the pulley and the deck or on the back side of the front pulley. In this position, it will keep the belt on even when you disengage it. If it's on the front, it is not doing anything to keep the tension there. Alright, now that you've got that guard installed, you're ready to test out the mower and get back to cutting your lawn. I hope this video has been quick and easy and helpful. If so, let us know in the comments. We appreciate your views. As always, make sure to do a sandy check, look for tools, look for equipment before firing up your deck. The last thing you want to do is cut a GoPro. But all jokes aside, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you the next time our equipment breaks.